on to Holt-Winters Additive Seasonal. So in this formula, we're adding an extra variable called seasonal. So the level formula is essentially the same, but when the old one with Holt-Winters trend, the alpha was multiplied by just the revenue. But now it's the revenue minus the seasonal from T minus P means this term minus a period. So we have quarters, so it's the same, it's one year ago. So the same quarter last year is subtracted from it before we multiplied by alpha. The trend formula is the same. Now there's this new seasonality. It has gamma. Gamma, just like alpha and beta, is between 0 and 1. And here we're subtracting the level from the revenue when we multiply it by gamma, plus 1 minus gamma times the seasonality, this new season, and it's from 1 year ago, or the same season last year. The forecast, just like it was in Holt-Winters trend, is in the future. So if you put it one term in the future, it's the level plus the trend, just like we did before. But now we add to it, and this is where the word additive comes from, we add to it the seasonal from same quarter last year. So let's do this. And we're going to make a copy of the Holt-Winters trend page. So F6, menu, M for move, N for down, make it at the end. Tab, put a space bar for create a copy, and then OK. And then F6, menu R for rename. I'm going to call it Holt-Winters Additive Seasonal. Okay, so we need to make a new seasonal column. So Control Home, I'm going to go across to the forecast column and Control space and then Control plus to add a new column, up arrow, and we're going to call it seasonal. And we also have to have a gamma. So where it should go here on where the MSC was, I'm going to hold down Shift, go across, Control plus, and Shift cells down. I'm going to call that gamma. I'm going to set it at 1. I'm also going to reset alpha to 1 for right now. Now we're going to have, instead of, we used to have just one line of prep numbers before we get into the real formula, but now we need a whole 4 quarters of prep numbers before we get into the formula. So the level and trend are going to be deleted for the first 3 of the 4 quarters. So select that and then delete, and then the first level, or the last level of the first year, the first 4 quarters, the formula is going to be average, equal average, and it's the average revenue of this whole year, these last 4 quarters. The trend is 0. The season is going to be equal to the revenue from that same quarter minus the level from the end of the year. And I'm going to F4 that because that is what's going to happen for this first 4 quarters of prep. Now when I hit enter, because this is a brand new column, it's going to autofill. So we can go Control Z to undo the autofill and to teach Excel that we don't want to autofill everything in this table. And now we can hold down Shift and go down for the first year and Control D to have it autofill for that year. The forecast we're going to delete for the first 4 quarters. And then now we can get into the real numbers. And before I forget, I'm going to change the MSC to only start on the real numbers, which is row 6. So I'm going to go to MSC, F2 it to edit the formula, and anytime I see a row 2, I'm going to change it to a 6. Same with the MAPE. Oops. It's F2, starting row 6. Good. Now, for the real formulas, starting on level. So this one was alpha times, the big thing I'm doing is I'm adding onto it. I'm, instead of just alpha multiplying by the revenue, it's the revenue minus the season from last year. So I'm going to take the same formula, I'm going to F2 it, and I'm going to arrow over to start a bracket right after the multiplication of alpha, and then after the word historic. And by the way, the reason it says at historic is in the table, it's using the historic column, and the at means on the same line that you are on now. And so, and then I'm subtracting the seasonality. Now I can't use my arrows to go up because I'm already in the cell. So I'm just going to type it in. The seasonality from the same season 1 year ago is E2. So I'm going to type in E2. I'm going to close brackets. Everything else in the formula is correct. The trend is already correct. The season I need to make. So that's equal. It's this new gamma, and I'm going to F4 that, multiplied by the difference of the revenue, historic revenue, and then minus the level from that same quarter, and then close brackets, plus, and then open brackets, 1 minus gamma, F4 that, and close brackets, multiplied by the season from 1 year ago, 4 quarters ago. And then the forecast is going to be initially the same, but I need to add on to that, so I'm going to F2. I'm going to add on to that the seasonal from 1 year ago. And so it's E2 as well. And when you say 1 year ago, he says, isn't that 1 year 5 instead of 4 quarters? Remember that the forecast is in the future. Pretend that we're on the 4th quarter of the first year, or line 5. What are we forecasting for the next quarter? And so we're already in the future. So now let's copy our autofill down, starting from level. I'm going to hold down Shift, level, trend, season, and forecast. While I'm still holding Shift and down, and that's going to the proper place, because even if we arrow down and arrow back up, we only want to go down to until we don't have a data before the yellow. Now I'm going to let go of Shift and Control D to autofill, and it's all done. Now end down and go across and down 1. We need to add to this forecast formula the seasonality from 1 year ago. So F2 it, and then add on to it the seasonality, and it's going to be E42. E42. And now I'm going to go back onto that cell with the corrected formula, hold down Shift, go down to the all the quarters of this year, and Control D, and there they are. I'm going to save everything so far, Control S, I'm just scared, and then Control Home to get back, and now we're going to run Solver again. So Alt A, Y3, and I'm not going to bother moving it. I'm going to move it. So Alt space M, arrow over to get it out of the way enough. Good, and then Enter to stay there. And so the objective is still the same, MSC, the minimum is still the same, but by changing variables, I need to add the gamma. So I'm going to go Tab, Tab, down to there. I'm going to hold down Shift and go down 1, so it includes 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to tab down to the first constraint, and I'm going to hit the space bar to select it, and go Tab to the right bank, and then down arrow to change, and Enter. And I'm going to do the same thing to increase the cell references of the things that have to be less than 1. I'm going to hold down Shift, down arrow to include gamma, and then Enter. And then I got to tab all the way down to constraints again, 3 tabs, and then I'm going to go, and I'm already at the top one. They move position. It's because they're sorting it in alphabetical order. Now I I1, I2 is ahead of I1, I3. So we're on the correct one now, the one that has to be larger than 0. I'm going to space bar to select it, tab over to the bank of buttons, and I'm going to go down to the change button, enter, and I'm going to hold down shift and go down to include gamma and then enter. And then enter again to solve it. And I'm just going to go OK. And things are looking good, even the chart's looking good, except the chart includes seasonal. I have to take that off. So Control Alt 5 and then Alt JC and E. And I'm going to tab down to variables, arrow down to seasonal, shift down, space, enter. There. And 6%, is that better than before? Yeah, 6% is better than the 9%. So maybe my company has some seasonality to it. And that's how to do the Holt-Winters Additive Seasonal.